I want to start with a question. What was the first story that made you feel seen? When a character felt the way we felt, when they feared and hoped what we fear and hope for, when the writing made us reflect on what we were feeling. Literature has the ability to reflect how we feel. Now imagine having that opportunity when you were a kid. Children today are faced with an overwhelming amount of emotions they don't have the words for yet. And when you don't have the words to describe what you are feeling, it can become frightening and overbearing. In a world where anxiety is rising among children and teenagers, where stress pushes down from all angles, emotional understanding is not just helpful, it's necessary. I want to explore how children's literature can help guide children in not only identifying, but managing and expressing their emotions they see reflected back at them. We'll look at 3 books that do just this. A Little Spot of Anxiety, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, and Inside Out and Back Again. Now, these stories don't only teach emotional literacy, they open the door to conversations about mental health and self-awareness that is desperately needed. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence is the foundation of an overall well-being. Now, let's start with a book that introduces children to a feeling that many adults still struggle to name: A Little Spot of Anxiety. Children often experience powerful emotions without knowing the language to describe them. They feel overwhelmed, nervous, uneasy, and they just don't know what to call it. They just understand that something feels wrong. A Little Spot of Anxiety takes an invisible, confusing feeling and gives it a shape. The story uses visuals and child-friendly strategies to help understand large feelings. Anxiety is shown as a spot, a small, manageable external spot. And when a feeling becomes visible, it can become manageable. The story tells children that anxiety doesn't have to control you. You can notice it, can work with it, and can calm it. The book teaches breathing techniques, positive thinking, and grounding exercises that are all woven into a way for children to develop self-awareness for anxiety. When a child can say, "I feel anxious," they gain control over their inner world. They learn that their emotions don't define them. They help us communicate something important. Literature like this allows children to not become swallowed by their emotions. Self-awareness begins here, in naming these emotions. Now, let's look at The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. This book is quiet, simple, gentle. It invites the reader to sit with emotional truth. Each character represents a different emotional experience. The boy represents curiosity and vulnerability. The mole with honesty and reassurance. The fox with silence and trauma. The horse with wisdom and compassion. Together they model something that adults often struggle with: openly talking about feelings. I'd like to read you a quote. "Isn't it odd? We can only see our outsides, but nearly everything happens on the inside," says the mole. This gives words to something we rarely speak of: how invisible our emotional struggles are. Children learn that they are not alone for feeling these large feelings on the inside. And they learn that it is okay to ask for help. "What is the bravest thing you've ever said?" asks the boy. "Help," says the horse. That single word is a powerful tool. It teaches children that asking for help is not a weakness. It shows that vulnerability is not a weakness, but that it's courage. And invites readers to pause, breathe, and accept that it is okay. This book teaches compassion for others and compassion for self. Compassion for the invisible emotional struggles that everyone carries, and that it is okay. Now, let's shift to Inside Out and Back Again, a novel that follows Ha, a young girl who became a refugee during the Vietnam War. Now, this story takes readers inside Ha's emotional world as she faces hardship from every angle: trauma, displacement, bullying, in the process of rebuilding her identity in a world that feels foreign, frightening, and unfamiliar. Our story shows how such large-scale events affect and live inside one child's heart. For children who have faced challenges, losses, or big transitions, Hall becomes a mirror. What might a child feel when facing a big change? Well, let's think. Fear, sadness, anger, loneliness. Literature like Inside Out and Back Again shows children that these emotions are normal. It shows how emotions are not something to hide, but to acknowledge and understand. That these feelings that children often suppress are okay to feel. Aud doesn't understand her emotions at first. She gets overwhelmed and reacts and struggles to fit into this new world. And that is exactly why this story matters. It did not protect you from suppressing emotions. It hurts to suppress emotions, and it's okay to not have everything figured out. In the story, it shows Ha begins to name what she is feeling and rebuild her identity. Self-awareness doesn't remove these big emotions. It helps build it into something understandable. When children engage with stories that intentionally explore emotion, they develop lifelong tools. They learn the ability to name their feelings, the ability to reflect, how to ask for help, empathy to understand others, and then confidence to communicate. Reading builds reflections and understanding, which this is the beginning of a healthier and more helpful future for our children to understand their emotions. When we give children stories that reflect their emotions, we give them tools, comfort, and a roadmap for navigating the hardest parts of growing up. Through literature, children learn emotions are not something to hide. We encourage children to express what they feel. We give them the strength to face these challenges. We give them the comfort that they are not alone, that feeling and emotions are human. A child who can understand their emotions is a child who can grow, not just survive. Feeling is not a flaw, it's a tool. Thank you.